pretty status quo, but I indicate some highlights over the last year. We have 40 FTEs under the county commission with only 6 vacancies. We have a vacancy in for paralegal and a couple in the Auditor General's office, but I'm happy to state that over the last 18 months, we have hired 2 AG persons, as well as 2 of 18 months. So this is this fiscal year, a little bit before, as well as 2 additional attorneys on staff. So we just need 1 more for our paralegal, and we've been able to really keep low turnover. So many of the people that we have been here for at least 10 years, average years, which is awesome. When you look at the rest of the county, the commission has stable employees, low turnover, and low vacancy rates compared to the rest of the county. So that's something to be very proud of. We still have in the budget $150,000 that we have for our auxiliary organizations, which are our Youth Council, the Women's Commission, and Ethics. That came up that they needed some support financially, so that remains in the budget. We still have funds in for education for commissioners. That includes attending the Michigan Association of Counties Conference, the National Association of County Conference, and other education opportunities for commissioners. That is still in the budget as well. We have about a 5% increase in our budget for salaries, recognizing that we talked about salaries throughout Wayne County. We have to indeed make sure that our employees are paid comparable as well. So those are the highlights. I'm going to now turn over to Mr. Tim Johnson to talk about some capital improvements that we're seeking to have in the chambers. Tim?
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just wanted to briefly talk about the audiovisual system in this office or in this room. And as you know, we've been having major issues with it. It's kind of put together with Band-Aids. The current presentation system that we have is out of warranty. The company that made it doesn't service it anymore. And if we did want it serviced, we'd have to send it overseas with no guarantee when or if we would ever get it back. So over a year ago, working with IT and our technical consultant, Blue Water, they recommended that we buy a new presentation system. We put the order in October, and we keep getting notices that it's delayed because of the pandemic and the global chip shortage and the supply chain issue. So I regret to tell you that the latest date they're giving me now is December for the new system to be in. So I know I'm very frustrated. The chair is frustrated, but we appreciate your patience on this. Part of our investment, besides the presentation system, which is really the thing that syncs everything, that syncs the mics, the cameras, the voting board. So that's going to be revised when we get the new equipment in. But we're also going to install a new meeting agenda software, which will have automatic vote tallies. And when you want to speak, there'll be a message that will be up there on the board. So it's really going to be impressive. I know Pam Lane and her staff who helped evaluate the system, they were very, very impressed with it. So the problem is we can't install that till we have the other thing fixed. So look for probably early January to have everything updated and revised. The only other thing from a technical standpoint, I think we weathered the pandemic very well. We had, I think, enough laptops and desktops and for our staff to work remotely. So that was encouraging. I think everyone kind of has newer computers. What we're going to do is we're going to check to see how old some of the computers you might have in your office are, if they need to be refreshed. So I might be reaching out to your staff at some point to help us see what you have and see what we need to get fixed. The other thing I want to mention about staffing is we've worked very closely with Personnel and Human Resources, and they were able to let us use their Indeed software. So we posted all our positions on Indeed, and we probably pre-screened about 75 candidates for various openings over the past year. So as everyone else told you, the hiring people is very hard, and we're experiencing that too. But we do have some great candidates that we brought on board recently. One last thing I'd like to leave you with is the 2 superstars of the Office of Administration are Cynthia Douglas and Gina Molden. They make sure that we get our paychecks, we get our contracts processed, get our supplies purchased. And oftentimes they would come in and be the only person on the floor. So it was very dark when they came in, but I commend them for their efforts. And I don't think we missed a beat during the pandemic, thanks to their hard work and effort. That's a quick overview. I can turn it over to Marcy unless you have questions right now for me.
Yes, thank you. I just want to say to Tim and the entire commission staff, as the newest at this point commissioner, coming on board last year was a huge change for me, and becoming adapted to how the commission operated. And I absolutely want to say of Tim and Jim and Gina and Cynthia and the Mary and Mark, the entire staff and the auditor, auditor general, everyone has been very, very, very helpful in assisting me in transitioning, even with the limited resources and just the little demand and questions that I had, and you all made yourself readily available at all times. Thank you.
I neglected to mention Jim and Wayne, that they've done a great job getting the word out with press releases, helping commissioners with resolutions. And I know that required a lot of weekend hours and after hours stuff, but they stepped up to the plate and hit a home run.
You continue to do it. And so just commending the chair and being able to have everything still run efficiently with, real limited staffing. Thank you.
That's what experience brings to the commission.
And I got to absolutely talk about Felicia. I mean, she's really been the quality control of all of this stuff, right?
We are very, very, very lucky and blessed, actually, to have the staff that we do, and their dedication is just phenomenal, and they love what they do. So thanks to Chair Bell for the leadership that she provides. I believe she lets them do their job the way they need to do it. And so not micromanaging everything. So that gives the freedom for everybody to do, including the commissioners. That gives us the freedom to do what we do best. And her job is to lead us, and she's been doing it great. So Tim, thank you as well. You're always there answering my text, even if it's not important, but I think it is. So our staff, our total staff are just phenomenal. Can't say enough. Thank you. Marcy, you're the best.
I just want to say thanks to this honorable body. We had been trying for 2 years to hire in our office. We're able to finally hire one individual in July, and the second individual started August 1st. So that brings us to 9 full-time employees and 1 part-time. We still have 1 vacancy that we're actively recruiting, but we're glad that we're able to bring 2 on board. And that's really all I have.
Thank you.
Mark?
Any questions? Chair Bell, do you have?
I'm going to ask Mark if you give any additional words on the finances, if he has any.
Thank you, Madam Chairs, I should say. Actually, I'm very pleased with where our budget is right now. I believe that we have enough to accomplish our objectives and accomplish our mission. As Chair Bell had indicated, it's generally status quo. I was pleased to see that we've retained enough travels to allow our commissioners to get involved in networking on a national basis and to gain insights about how things are done across the country. But I've got to believe more that we provide them with insights rather than them providing us. But I think that that's good. We've also retained the money for our boards and commissions, youth, women, and ethics. So and increases for our staff as well, which I think is really important. The common theme that we heard throughout the county is ability to retain and attract employees. I think that this is probably one of the departments that has the fewest amount of turnover, and I think that that's for a good reason because we've got great leadership. And I think the increases that we have ability for in our budget is very worthwhile. So thank you.
I could just have one final note, just thank everyone personally, Tim, Marcy, Mark, Felicia, Pam, Jim, and everyone under you all, because it takes a team to get everything done. You know, every department within the county has a department, but we deal with all of the departments. So we do a Herculean job of dealing with all of the things that come before us from either the sheriff's office, DPS, you know, wherever it is, we have to deal with the entire county. So I couldn't do this without the support of our team. And I want to thank you all personally for all the great work that you've done. And again, I'm just so happy that we have a lot of experience on the commission. Low turnover is excellent. And they were able to hire some new people because we're offering salaries that are competitive. So just thank everyone who's made this happen. And I appreciate all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Chair Baydoun.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I too would like to echo my appreciation and gratitude to our commission staff, Tim Johnson, Marcy, Mark, Mary, Jim, Wayne, all of you, Alicia. You're doing an amazing job, and I'm very, very proud of the work that you're doing. Thank you.
You. Mark, do you have anything else?
No, I'm good. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Kinlock?
Also, I want to thank Pam. She's someone else I've continued to nag to. Thank you.
Anyone else? Commissioner Martha G. Scott.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to say thanks to all the staff for everything that you do. It's just been great being here for these 10 years that I've been here. So thank you for all the assistance that you have given me. So thank you all very much.
Thank you. I think that covers the commission's budget. Thank you very much. Mr. Abbo, would you introduce our next presenters, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The next department presenting will be our county clerk, our clerk Kathy Garrett and Dwayne Seals. I believe that they are on Zoom.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Okay, I'm ready to start whenever you are, commissioners.
You're looking good. We can see you. We are ready to have you start.
Okay, well, good afternoon to everyone. I just want to follow up and say that for the most part, we are pleased with the county clerk's budget. However, I have emphasis of concern on 3 items, and those items are making sure that the revenue is available for the Vitals Division currently housed in KMAC to be moved over to 400 Monroe. The other MMB did agree to put the funding back to assure that we have 3 deputy sheriffs that are allocated. They belong to the clerk's office. And then the final one was there was an agreement to do a technical amendment to put back in, what was it, three positions for elections because it was an oversight of them being removed. But other than that, I'm happy to report that we're pleased. As usual, we're doing a whole lot more with a whole lot less. I did hear Commissioner Bell speak to the competitive salaries. We look forward to having that, to be able to say the same thing over here in the clerk's office, and maybe we would be able to secure some new staffing. So currently we have 90 vacancies. We do have 2 contracts with 2 temporary agencies. Thus far, out of 24 positions, 4 people have been cleared to work in the clerk's office. But even with that, those 24 positions, we still would be 65, we'd have 65 vacancies. So that continues to be the drumbeat over here, trying to secure staffing.
Thank you. I'm happy for you that you will be able to be moving to 400 Monroe, as you've been wanting to for a long time, to have all your staff in one place. And so I'm very happy for you. And I'm so glad that you're finally getting to the point where you can be pleased about your budget. It warms my heart to see you smile at budget hearings. Thank you. Any questions, Commissioner Baydoun?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, Madam Clerk. First, let me just thank you for all that you continue to do and you have done in the past. I know I have reached to your office on several occasions, and I understand the limited staffing that you have, especially Mr. Wayne Seals. He was very helpful every time I reached out to him to resolve an issue and help a constituent, whether it's the birth certificate or a marriage issue or the CPL licenses. You mentioned that we have 90 vacancies. Are you still, how is the scheduling for people coming in to conduct some of these businesses, like obtaining a marriage license or a birth certificate or even the CPL? Are we still behind? What's the time frame, if you don't mind sharing with us?
Well, I think it's not correct to say we're behind. I'll say that we keep a full schedule. And as you know, and some of the other commissioners, when there are extenuating circumstances, we find a way to get people squeezed in, whether it's a manager that stays after to do it or comes in early to do it. But in answer to your question, our scheduling is still full to capacity for every service that we have.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Again, thank you for everything that you have done and will continue to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Marecki.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, Madam Clerk.
Good afternoon.
I'm having a hard time hearing you. You named three things when you started off. You're getting monies for the move to 400 Monroe. You're getting 3 deputy sheriffs assigned to the clerks. Your own 3 deputy sheriffs. And what was the third thing you said?
The third was 3 positions that should belong to the elections division.
Okay.
There was a promise of a technical amendment for that to happen.
Oh, okay. All right. I guess my only question is, all the satellite offices closed because of COVID. Are there any plans to reopen any of those?
Nothing would make me happier once we get some employees to house them to man those satellite off. And then we only had one, for lack of a better way to put it. We got booted out of Northville. However, in Westland, yes, we closed down because of COVID, but those individuals are here working in this office now because of the shortage.
So you do anticipate, if you do get additional staff, that one day those could be open again?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Commissioner Martha G. Scott.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, Madam Clerk.
Good afternoon, Commissioner Martha G. Scott.
Now, I think you mentioned that you're pulling from there's organization that you have people working over there and you've hired 3 of them. Do you think you'll be able to hire some of the others?
No, I think you misunderstood what I was saying. From the temporary agencies, there's 24 that have been allotted to us. However, out of that 24, at this point, only 4 of them have passed the background check. Now, our hope and prayer is that when these temps come, that they will decide to become a permanent employee, hence Wayne County Clerk's Office employee. So that's our mission always. When they come, to try to let them see this is a great place to work, and I know the money shall cometh, so just stay here with us. So we haven't hired any of them yet.
Oh, I see. Just the three.
They're not,
But are some of them doing some work in your office now?
they will be starting, I believe it's next week.
Oh, okay. Now,
That's 4 out of 24 people though.
yeah. So what kind of tests do they have to take?
Well, first of all, to be able to work in the court areas, you have to have a background check, and that exceeds the county's standard testing. The court has another level of background checks that they do. So once that happens, then they'll be able to come in and work.
Okay. Is that money in your budget now?
Yes, it is.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you, and thank you for all that you do. I know you've had a lot of challenges with having the staff and that, so, but I thank you for all that you and your staff have been doing. So
Thank you as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. I visited your website lately, and it's really nice that constituents can actually make appointments right online. So that is really great. You were always ahead of technology. I remember us talking before you even got into office, so we appreciate you.
Okay, you know this is being recorded, right?
Thank you. Any other questions? Our budget director, everything that was said is correct in your view? Want to make sure everything is.
Good afternoon. I'm Drew Vandegrift, Wayne County Budget Director. No, I've listened with interest to the summary, and I agree with it. We are going to deliver a number of technical adjustments for the Commission's review, one of which includes the positions that were referenced, the election positions. There was a robust discussion about the correct budget amount for sheriff protection. And I am committed to modifying via technical adjustment upward that amount to the requested amount of $344,000. And I think those are the two outstanding issues that should be addressed via TA.
Did we address all of your concerns that you had brought forward?
Yes, you have.
Well, thank you. I'm happy to hear that Commissioner Marecki still has a question.
Yeah, thank you. Madam Clerk, are those three sheriff deputies, is that for elections or?
No, it's for our vital statistics division. Elections, that's on election night that we redeploy the sheriffs.
Okay.
But even for every day for our vital statistics division.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Anderson?
Thank you. Madam Clerk, welcome. I wanted to ask you, what are things that you anticipate might be going on this year in the election? And then, of course, 2 years from now that we're making preparations for, because I know you had your hands full with what was going on in the canvassing last 2 years ago, I guess it was. And I just wondered if you anticipate having to take some other extraordinary steps to protect those canvassers and those people that are doing the actual counting that was at the facility formerly the Cobo.
Because of the climate that exists in the world now, that's, I believe, will be a standard. Now, you know that the county clerk has nothing to do with what happens at Cobo or Huntington Place, as it's called now. However, the canvas is done at our Bigliotti building, and as in the 2020 election, we had deputy sheriffs housed or on staff there, I should say. This past primary election, we had deputy sheriffs here with us until the 7 a.m. the next morning. As well as that evening, it called for, we had the Detroit Police Department here, as well as 2 individuals from the Attorney General's office. So I think that will be an ongoing standard that we will always have law enforcement on the premises with us, and as well as the 14 days that the canvas is held.
I think you're right, and it's a sad time that we're living in, what's happening. And I think a lot of election workers are certainly concerned for their own safety. And I think it's going to be something that we're going to have to deal with for years to come. Hopefully it'll change back to the way it was. But anyway, I'm glad I'm sure you're in communication with others and what's happening, and with the Secretary of State and others that are looking at this issue to try to keep voters safe as well as the election workers safe. But it's unfortunate what we're seeing happen, but it's something that we're going to be faced with, I think, again, and maybe even more severely in the next 2 elections. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. Mr. Abbo, do you have anything else for the clerk?
Just a final comment. I want to thank Dwayne Seals and Drew Vandergrift. I actually, on my way to work today, I called Dwayne and we spoke about the status of their budget, and he had indicated that there were some technical amendments that they'd all been worked out with Drew, and everything was good. So I thought that this would be an easy hearing, especially given that if you really look at it, Madam Clerk, your budget goes down by just a short amount. I know that a lot of it is because of the fact that pensions are so far down, pension costs, I should say, not pensions, but pension costs are so far down. So I'm very pleased that you're happy with your budget, and kudos to Dwayne and Drew for working that out before we got to this point.
Thank you very much. Any parting words, Madam Clerk?
No, I just thank you for your time. And again, I'm pretty pleased out of these years with my budget. I'm pretty pleased with it. And I also would like to thank Drew and of course Dwayne for, as Drew said, we had a robust discussion here in the clerk's office and it worked out, and I'm just happy about that. So once we get some employees, we'll be happy campers over here.
Thank you. You know, I'm retiring, so I promised you that I would work on getting you over to Monroe, and I did that, so now I can go.
No, you can't go until we're totally over there.
No, I'll be here till December 31st, and you'll be in by then.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Abbo, please introduce our next presenters.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The next department, which is, I should say, last but not least in total, is management and budget, including non-departmental. And I believe, Drew, will you be presenting on behalf of management and budget? I'm sorry, our CFO is here. I'm sorry, Hugh, I didn't. Welcome to our CFO for presenting for management and budget.
You can sit down if you wish, be more comfortable. Thank you for taking all of my texts and my phone calls yesterday. We worked pretty well all day yesterday. Welcome.
Good afternoon, and thank you all for allowing me to come and do a presentation about management and budget. I think that we have provided slides. If not, then I'll wing it. I don't know if we have slides to share or not. If not, then I'll just wing it. As you know, management and budget handles the finances for the county. The team behind me, the budget team, they're responsible obviously for the budget, but management budget has many other divisions. Hold on one second. Let me see if Mary's gonna. Should I wait? Oh, sure, absolutely.
While we're waiting for the slide, I'd just like to acknowledge that Commissioner Melissa Dobb has also joined us, and I believe Commissioner Haddis too. So thank you for being here. And I almost forgot my replacement, Commissioner Cara Clemente, State Representative coming in for the 4th District Commission. She's also joined us. Thank you. You may resume.
Yeah, if you don't have the PowerPoint, I'll wing it. I think you all have a package with some Q&A and some specific numbers. There was also a series of slides that were prepared for you, which we will, I'll work with staff to make sure you get those after the fact. So let me start off by just giving a high level kind of a overview of management and budget. I'm going to be brief because there's some specific things I wanted to touch. But management and budget, these figures are as of June 28th, and we have 122 budgeted positions, 91 were filled as of June 28th, 2022. Our department consists of 10, what I'm going to call divisions, risk and administration, which is ran by, there it is. If you go to slide 3. Yeah, thank you. So risk and administration is ran by Claire Mason Lee. We have grants that is directed by Director Shantika Bullard. We have budget. The team behind me is budget. We have Drew as the director. We have Jake as the deputy director. We have Vanita as the assistant director. Assessments and equalization is ran by Scott Vandermergel. Procurement, our newly minted procurement director, Mama Tabergi. We also have benefits administration. We have Livia Calderoni, who is a past director of benefits, who is now acting until we permanently fill that position. Director of Financial Reporting and Accounting is led by Graham Smithcourt. And then we have the 3 satellite organizations, HSVS Finance. I think you all are familiar with Kamal Keperu. We have EDD Finance, and that is a mistake. That's my fault. Wanda Taylor is acting as that director, and we have DPS Finance. Moina Moore was just promoted to that position. And then finally, we have 2 deputies. 1 deputy position is filled. You all approved early last year the promotion of Yogesh Kasani to the deputy CFO position. Of course, I am the CFO, and we're actively looking to fill the DCFO position that was vacated by Aaron Wagner late spring. So the next slide is just the rendition or full kind of a inventory of the people that fill that organization chart that you saw in the previous slide. Now, as I get into the next slide, there's a reason I started off with the people, because it's very important that, you know, there's a challenge and an opportunity when we start talking about the people. You can go to the next slide, please. So I think everybody understands that pretty much every department and every office in the county is struggling with hiring positions, and M&B is not an exception. Now, the good news is that, you know, with people working at 100, 110, 120% capacity, we've been able to get things done. And, you know, I'm in a minute, I'm going to, you know, I'm going to pat the team on its collective back for some of the things that we've accomplished. But at the same time, that isn't sustainable, right? And so there are a number of different things that we are working on and trying to do to make sure that, that we are addressing the need for, the need for us to figure out how to get people, the right number of people in the right spots so we can do the work and not always operate at 110, 120% capacity. So people can, take a vacation from time to time or not have to work through weekends. And so, before I get there, I do want to acknowledge some of the things that we've done. Some of these things should be familiar to you. They're borrowed from a number of different presentations that have been given before. One of the things that I'm very proud of is the fact that we continue to increase the fund balance of the county, right? And so this slide doesn't have it. It does. $233 million of general fund unassigned unrestricted fund balance. That's the third bullet. And so with that being said, we've done a great job of fiscal management, of being good stewards of the county's money. And I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge the county executive is with his vision and direction under which we operate to get to this point. Something I'm also very proud of are the rating upgrades. We're at a certain situation as the county was working through the consent agreement with the state. And I would offer that was probably one of our lowest points. But since then, we've seen continued upgrades. And even though this team has turned over, all of us have been in our positions no more than 2.5 years. At least at the deputy CFO, the budget director position, and the CFO position. Yet we continue to see rating upgrades. And so, awards, we're being acknowledged from national organizations such as GFOA for our transparency and capabilities in reporting, management, and transparency. The Equalization Department just won Equalization Department of the Year award in the state of Michigan. And last but not least, our department did not grow. We did hire outside consulting, but our department did not grow. But the number of dollars that we've had to oversee did. We had $207 million in CRF funding that we worked through and still are having to report on those dollars. That's the nature of federal grants via the single audit process. And then finally, we're working through the $340 million. Now, on the program side, we're working with the proper departments to determine how that money is going to be deployed. But we're also responsible for helping set up the framework so that we can have the right oversight and reporting on that going forward. So those are the good things. But let me talk a little bit about where we're going, right? So let's go to the last slide. So what is to come? So I think that, the one thing about it, we do need to increase our transparency, right? We spent the last year, I think, getting key divisions that were in a challenged situation staffed up properly. And the people behind me, I think that where we were probably 9 months into my tenure as CFO to where we are now is night and day. And, I really do think that the prototype for, what a team, what a division should look like, what a department should look like, but definitely a team should look like is behind me with the budget division, because we went from losing a 16-year veteran with the budget team to where we are now, still able to get that continuity out. But the one thing that we have not done a great job of is the reporting and the transparency to this body and making sure that we're monitoring the situation. The good news is because we're such good stewards with the money, we've always had a cushion to work with. But we want to get to a point where we're actually spending money, not producing surpluses, and get to a point that we're actually getting closer to the revenues we're generating, because we need to increase our staffing levels. And so we do need to be a bit more careful and monitor our budget to actuals as opposed to depending on that cushion. So that's the first bullet. And I think you've heard this throughout the hearings. One theme I've not been able to attend them all, but one thing I'm hoping that you're hearing is that every department, every office should be asking themselves, well, if I have so many unfillable positions, then maybe I need to think about operationally and from a personnel standpoint and from a fiscal standpoint, how do I get myself to the right funding level per position as opposed to just asking for more positions or for raises across the board? Because as I've said as CFO, and as I know Mr. Vandergrift has said as budget director, you know, our recurring revenues and our recurring expenditures have to match. Even though we have a lot of one-time money we're working through, we still don't have a lot of recurring revenue growth. Our property taxes, I think about a 1% growth budget year to budget year as we went from 22 to 23. And so because of that, we really can't just balloon this budget and be fiscally responsible. So because of that, we do need to think about what do we actually need, retain the people that we have responsible growth if necessary in our actual staffing levels. And one thing I have charged my directors to do is to think about that, be the model for what we've been preaching to other departments and elected officials. And then we continue to support, there are two major projects that you all are aware of. One is the transition to the criminal justice complex. We have been, you can see the building. So that is a success story in itself. But that last mile is going to be very important for all of administration, including M&B, who will play a very critical role from a budgetary standpoint, and a procurement standpoint, and accounting standpoint to make sure that that transition happens and we get it done in a timely fashion. And then, I mentioned again, we continue to have to manage those SLRF dollars and COVID-19 dollars. Last but definitely not least is the ERP. And I know there is a CAL dedicated. I don't want to get too deep into detail with the status report of where we are with the ERP, but I will tell you that it is very high on the priority list for the county executive, for the administration, and definitely for M&B. There isn't a day that doesn't go by where I'm sitting down and trying to figure out what's next, what do we need to do, challenge the team, et cetera. So I look at the ERP. Some people look at the ERP as an end. I see it as a means to an end because all these things we have to do and we will continue to have to do on an ongoing basis, in the next 2 years, 3 years, half a decade to come, we won't be able to do it. We won't be able to do it in a sustainable fashion unless we're able to get this done. This is the foundation of everything we need to get accomplished, both from a staffing standpoint, from an operational standpoint. So with that, I will pause and pause for questions. I think that's my last slide. Now, you also have some fiscal information that was provided to you as well. So I'm happy to entertain questions. Myself, Mr. Vandergrift, Mr. Brower, Ms. Terry, we're more than happy to help. I don't know if the deputy CFO is here or not. There he is. So the deputy CFO is also here as well, who also serves as, I'll say, the de facto controller of the county. And so between us, we are more than happy to entertain questions.
Thank you, Huey. We will start with Commissioner Varga, Chair of the Ways and Means.
Thank you. I'm very pleased the way the budget is heading. I do have, during the process, we had found some things that we need to fix. Hopefully we get a chance to do it or begin to do it, but have an understanding going forward as we vote on this budget. And those are, if there's any dollars coming in from anywhere to the county, we need to make sure the budget recognizes it and then the commission dispose of it. So if we have boards or committees or anything like that, that we create, that we make sure that the money follows through the regular system of budgeting. So what I'd like to do at this point, we found three things that we would like to maybe correct or maybe just clarify the practices that we currently have. So that way we're all going to be on a very nice road for the future. And I would like to have one has to do with land bank, and it's the monies that are transferred for maintenance of the properties once the land bank gives it, once the treasurer sends over signs over the property to land bank. The treasurer maintains the property, but when it's sold, the cost doesn't go back to reimburse the treasurer. That's one, and I'll let Felicia talk about the other two.
Through the chair, and Commissioner, correct me if I'm wrong, if I get this wrong. I believe the second item is something that came up with regards to the land bank as well, and that is an IGA between the land bank and the county for the cost of employees and that reimbursement. That way there is an actual agreement that authorizes the money and expenditure of the loan of the employees to the land bank, and then the reimbursement, the land bank board will reimburse us. So a written agreement for that. The third, I believe, is the EDC. And with regards to looking at, and it's sort of, I'm gonna call it a two-prong for the EDC, an agreement with the EDC for the actual management of this building, so everyone is clear as to what their actual role should be and what authority the county is actually given over with regards to that delegation. And I think the second for the EDC was related to, I'm drawing a blank, the money. And the fact that those funds that are generated from the county buildings don't actually hit the county budget and are not appropriated, so that there can be a proper appropriation and then budget back to the EDC for the management of the buildings. Thank you.
Thank you for that. What I will do, I will commit to researching in however form or fashion you'd like for me to come back and report out on that. I'm cautious because I want to make sure I review the rationale of why that is. I know those are component units or independent authorities. And so I want to understand in deeper detail of why historically that level of authority and the reporting has not been made available. And so I can't, that's something that, I can't do alone. I'd have to also seek support from Corp Counsel as well. But I am committed to reporting back on what I find.
Thank you. I have brought this to the attention of Corp Counsel this morning and asked him to get with Felicia to discuss it further. A while back, we had commissary program that was similar, and it was run with an ordinance, and it gave them too much authority without having to follow Wayne County procedures. And the only way that I could deal with it at that time was to get rid of the ordinance. So this was before our CFO or CEO became our CEO. So the rationale would not be the same for this one as it was for the last one. I can tell you that because I was here for the last one. So I'm sure that we can get this straightened out the way it should be run properly with all of us getting together on it.
And I'm committed to getting together, and I can say with 100% confidence that this county executive is not the same as the last county executive, but for sure we're dedicated to getting to the bottom of it. The parties from administration, all the parties necessary just aren't here right now. Some of us are, but not all of us are. But we're committed to getting to the bottom of it.
I know we are all above board, and we want everyone to know what everyone else is doing on the people's behalf of Wayne County. So I know that we can do this and I really want to get this done. We've been trying for the last 10 years, so
Mhm.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Huey. Next, we have Commissioner Mareki.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I really appreciate you putting your goals up for the next year, but really appreciative of number 2, the division by division review of operational staffing needs and budget. I think I've been on management and budget for 5 or 6 years. Every year, it's the same story about this. COVID's made it a little bit different, but it's basically been the same story of the shortage of staffing and all these staffing. And I really think this county has to reconfigure how it operates. So I'm really excited about that. When I was on city council in Livonia back in ages ago, but one of the years was 2008, 2009, we were going through the same exact thing. And we had to like sit down and figure who is needed, what is needed, and it lightens up the load. So I really appreciate that part of this.
So through Mr. Chair, through you to the commissioner, you have to be very careful with this one because I'm very passionate about this. You know, I used to do this for a living where you sit down and you look at what you need. And usually it's a sensitive situation, but Wayne County, because we're almost 1,000 vacancies, actually more than 1,000 vacancies, depending on when you take the time. So we are understaffed. We clearly need, no matter who comes in and looks at us office by office, we need more people. We will need more people than we have. There's no question about it. So normally this thing makes people nervous, but I think, we're at a point of, I don't want to say the word desperation. We're definitely at a point of enhanced need to do this. I think the problem is twofold. Number one, I think that, having the right access and cooperation across the board and trust is very important. To get something like this done is difficult because we don't always trust each other. You think about all the stakeholders that are part of what an exercise would be. You have to sit down and process map pretty much everything, going to my team back here, sit down and process map how they would do management oversight of the budget to actual monitoring throughout the year, right? So you have to sit down and look at all those processes, office by office, department by department. There's no way that the people that are here could do it on our own. And you have to have the expertise. So that's a bit of a challenge on its own. Now, COVID, it didn't help us. But M&B has a double whammy against it because not only do we not have adequate staffing levels, we also have antiquated technology, right, with the ERP. I don't want to give it away, but one of the things we learned when we did the assessment of what went wrong with the ERP before was, well, you don't have the right staffing levels. Well, now you got a chicken and the egg problem because nobody wants to come here and work on a green screen. That's the antiquated technology. People want to work in the cloud. People want to work in Windows. We're getting to a point where we're in the precipice of AI, right? To do an optical character recognition for things like doing invoice processing. And we're still on green screens and paper. So we have a chicken and an egg problem here where if we don't get modernized, we can't, there's a whole wave of people we can't attract. But we can't get to the cloud because we don't have adequate staffing levels to do the day-to-day and focus on this. So one thing that, will be coming soon, we'll start talking about kind of how do we utilize things like staff augmentation? And I mentioned this in previous ERP presentations. Do we invest in staff augmentation to kind of build a bridge so we can get this thing going and get out of that vicious cycle? And I think that would help. But we still need that overarching review. It's just difficult to do.
Yeah, and no, I appreciate that, especially when you explain it. And I don't, when I'm making these comments, I hope nobody thinks I'm like we got to cut staff and do that. I don't mean that at all because we are understaffed, but the efficiency of what's going on and not having that same presentation every year of I have 80 vacancies and I need more people. So I appreciate all the problem, the chicken and the egg thing. So thanks for that explanation, but I don't want anybody to think either that I'm talking about, hey, we got to get rid of staff because I know we're understaffed. But
And I
we
didn't
can
take
do
it that way.
Yeah, yeah.
But again,
I mean, the public that's listening, I don't want
right.
you to think that.
It is being recorded, but not to interrupt, but you are right. I mean, I think both of us really understand that, across the board court cuts, we can't afford it. We're at a point where historically things have happened, but we're at the bone at this point. We really don't have anything left to cut. So
I appreciate all of you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Kinlock.
Yes, thank you. Yes, thank you for this presentation. As always, your department, especially, you've made yourself always available to answer the various questions. Over the past year, we've had a couple of a couple of points that we saw that there was further need to zero in on. And specifically, you and I have talked about the aspect as it relates to the some issues that came from the Treasurer's Office as far as bank statement reconciliation, as well as what was mentioned. You talk about the delinquent tax revolving fund and where that authority lies with the treasurer, who has the ability to utilize those dollars as required by statute. But are we able to set some sort of formula or give instructions as the legislative branch of government? So I'm saying there's some systems, conversations that I believe that you're having with our staff on how we can address some of those issues. The statement and reconciliation issue doesn't seem to just stay right there with the Treasurer's Office. There are some issues as it relates to reconciliation or even keeping track of some of the revolving loan issues and questions that have come up regarding outstanding loans and whether they've been repaid as it relates to the brownfield redevelopment revolving loans pieces. So I'm saying, do you see a need of having an overarching, because we have like independent authorities, elected departments, some sort of continuity or some sort of review of how these various entities and individuals are receiving instructions and understanding instructions on how they should reconcile their statements, how they should keep track of whether it's loans or other disbursements or resources or assets, including the Public Service Department, which your office and others are dealing with, regarding the what happened with the issue over at the public. Not touching too much on that, there has to be some sort of failure in tracking county equipment and property as well. So I'm just saying this is the whole reconciliation, and I'm just wondering if that lies with management and budget, or where do you see solutions to addressing the reconciliation questions? That's not just with the treasurer, but in a few other areas that I've seen, as well as the issue as it relates to that have come from Public Services Department.
So I want Yogesh to jump up to the podium if I say something wrong, but through you, Mr. Chair, through to Commissioner Kinlock, let me tackle this in three separate categories. So I'm leery to comment on what happened at DP, at Department of Public Services, because it's an ongoing investigation. But I think that what I will do is I will allude to something that I believe the auditors had commented on in terms of tracking physical inventory. And we are actively looking at not just our processes for tracking physical inventory, but also the systems that we use to do that, right? So do we do physical inventory on an annual basis, a semi-annual basis, a monthly basis? I don't think we'll ever do it on a monthly basis. So I don't want to talk about the investigation, but I will talk about that, because I think that what I'm saying will still satisfy at least, or get to some level what you're talking about. When it comes to the Treasurer's Office, I hope if this is not true, then I will do everything to make it true. But my department has been committed to helping, because there's a handshaking that happens. He handles the cash, disbursements of cash, receipt of cash. We handle the general ledger, right? We handle the accounting. And so when it comes to the treasurer's office, we know that there were issues and delays in the filing of the county's audit back in the spring. You know that, that's no secret. And the treasurer did come before this body, or the full body, I believe, or the audit committee, excuse me, and discussed the fact that he has staffing challenges and technology challenges like we have. But I want to be careful because, you know, I will use M&B as an example. We have those same challenges, but we find a way to make sure that we are able to avoid things such as a prior period adjustment, right? Which is a big no-no in finance and accounting world. So, you know, but in regards to a formula, I think that all this kind of ties together, because even if you have a formula, you still have to have numbers that are readily available, that you trust, in order to effectively effectuate a formula, right? I'm committed to a formula. My team remains committed to a formula. We like to be able, the inability for us to budget what's coming out of the DTRF in terms of a surplus is challenging, right? Because there's a lot of things that come to us. We don't know what's coming from there. I think, Mr. Vandergrift and his team will present a number of technical adjustments where they will recognize surplus that they couldn't confidently say was coming, right? Because there's no formula, it just happens. And so it would be helpful for us to be able, think about it, take a step back, think about it from finance 101. You have companies, corporations, municipalities, us. We have 5-year forecasts, but yet, I think we're gonna put, correct me, don't hold me to this number, $30 million in the 23 budget for DTRF surplus. Well, general funds 565 is 570, so that's a nice chunk of change as a percentage that's a wild get, just swag. So just finance fundamentals, I think, and I'm committed to a formula, but there are legal questions, there are accounting questions, the technology questions, staff, all those things that we have to work together on. And, my team is really committed to whatever it will take to get that happen, to make that happen. And the last thing I'll talk about is, I will go back to the comment I made to Commissioner Varga, where when it comes to those other bodies and getting that, understanding what they're doing, like the Brownfield Authority, I need some time to understand a little bit in deeper detail outside of what was in the audit report. I need some time just to understand exactly what the problems are. I am familiar with some of them, but I don't want to comment on the record with confidence, something I'm not, ready to really commit to a solution at this point. But hold me to it, and I will be able to talk in more depth if I can have some more time to get my head around it.
That is fine. Someone in your office is working with the staff on a solution. But thank you.
So I'll pull back that commitment and I'll let my staff handle it. How about that?
Yeah, that'll work. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Baker McCormick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for coming today. I had a question in the matter of the EDC and or the commission's oversight, I should say. And I think Felicia alluded to the other questions I had, but I think that was the main issue that we had is we own the Guardian building and we own the parking, but we don't have any oversight. And I don't know if that was made clear, but that was one of the issues. Also, as to the ERP, are there any guidelines or mandates for reporting to the commission? I know we talked about that, but just so we know what's going on and, yes, so.
So there was before the ERP, before we let go of or had a mutual separation with Cherry Road Bill last year, I don't think that you all were getting regular reports. Now, what we committed to is once the project was restarted, we come back on, I think quarterly or every 2 months, that we would come back and report to you. Now, I will admit on the record that we are running late. The last time I think I came to you all was March. There was a memo that was distributed at least to one commissioner or multiple commissioners, I think in June. But we will have another, there was supposed to be a committee of the whole yesterday in which there is a presentation prepared for you. The problem was there was a series of contractual terms that needed to be fleshed out with Oracle. And so we weren't ready with the contract. The vision was give you your regular status report and then bring forward 2 contracts. One contract was is to be the staff augmentation investment that I alluded to before. The other one was going to be the systems integrator, which would be Oracle Consulting Services to replace Cherry Road Technologies. So the answer to your question is yes. What we had agreed to is in some form or fashion, either through committee of the whole, full board, or government ops, that there will be regular reporting. The next report was supposed to be yesterday, but it's delayed because we wanted to piggyback that with the contract that was going to be presented. Will be on September 14th.
So just to clarify, is there a budget instruction that mandates this reporting?
I don't think
And
so
if
for
not, I
that
think
particular
we
project.
might
I think the budget instructions allude to reporting on every single, across the board for budget to actuals, if I remember correctly. But I don't know if there's a budget instruction specific to the ERP. Now, at any point, what we should be doing is providing you the quarterly, alluded to that as a goal. The quarterly report should be by major appropriation. And the ERP has its own set of appropriations. So that would be the budget to actual spend would be part of it. And I would encourage you to look through this through the budget. So there is a requested budget appropriation specific to ERP that falls in the MMB, right? And so that should be part of your package. And I'm happy to look through that and explain. I almost know those numbers in my sleep. But I'm happy to walk you through those numbers if you like. But that only gets you the financials. It doesn't give you the status of the project. And see, that was the problem that we had before, where you all had the financial reporting. This is how much we spent, but you all did not see the status of the progress of the project. And that's what we're trying to fix.
So is there a way that we can put together instructions to say we get the status and the budget all at one time when you?
I will leave that to you all internally, but I will commit to this. Whenever, and I've done this I've done this a number of times. If you ask for a memo, I'm happy to generate a memo. I will do it directly just to give you a status report on the progress of the project.
That would be great. And our attorney, do you want to add anything to this or?
I will get with our fiscal staff to check what instructions and reporting is already required. I will check with fiscal staff.
Thank you. Because I kind of like the whole concept that we get the CJC reports, and that is just so helpful. And since we, had the issues with this project before, I'd like to stay abreast on the financial end as well as how the project is moving along. So.
And I almost forgot and we'll talk about this in much more detail. And I mentioned this the last time that I gave a stats report, but the project governance, you all approved the Guidehouse as the PMO or the Program Management Office. And they've established that. And there are reports that are generated, and I can work with commission staff and make sure that is also getting to you as well. So there are reports that are available on a monthly basis that we can get to you if you're not getting them. I can personally make sure that you get those.
Thank you. But you know what? I didn't really have to get all of the information.
Mm.
I really just want a summary of where we are, and just like, have you seen our CJC
Oh,
report?
I've seen them.
So that's all I'm looking for, something straightforward. And we feel that we are staying abreast, and that's all I want to.
And, you know, I think that those steering committee reports will give you what you need. Let me check on that and get back to you. But I think those steering committee reports will get you what you need. If you're not getting them, I will personally check and make sure that somehow internally you all, gets funneled through.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Before I turn it over to Mark, Huey, I have a final question. Unless any of our colleagues from the commission, do you have any other questions before I wrap up? Okay, I guess not. Huey, you mentioned earlier that we're seeing a 1% growth in terms of property tax collection year over year. Have we came back to the same level that we were at back in 2007, 2006 in terms of property collection in Wayne County?
I believe the answer is no. We haven't quite gotten back to that level. I want to be careful though. I don't know if Drew, if you have that information. I believe no, because I remember this is part of a presentation we gave when we were going into COVID, the COVID recovery plans that Khalil, who's moving on, and I, made available to you all when we were just going into COVID. Based on that recollection, I'm almost certain that we never recovered, at least from a taxable value standpoint, to where we were pre-recession.
Thank you, Huey. Mark, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Actually, Huey, you're right. I think that the original estimate was that we wouldn't get back to that level till 2028. I believe it's going to happen sooner. It may happen within the next year or two, but we have not achieved that yet. But before, I have just one question, but before we do that, I just want to acknowledge something for the commission. Fiscal staff probably coordinates more with M&B than almost any other department in Wayne County. And Huey, I just want to thank you for your leadership on that, because I think that we have a great working relationship with you. You guys are always responsive, and your leadership shows throughout your staff and the rest of your team. So thank you for that. I wanted to talk about just a couple of things, but you've already touched on them. One of them was staffing. The other one was ERP. And a little bit about the Guardian building. I know that we have some conflict regarding the management of that. We've always had that. To be honest with you, I thought that would resolve itself if we ever reissued the debt outstanding on the Guardian building. And one of the responses that we had to the questions was you had indicated that we may not be refinancing or calling any of the debt that's outstanding. Do you think that we lost an opportunity with the Guardian building? Because I was hoping that we would do that, because one of my objectives was to remove that line that said that economic development would manage the Guardian building, but it never happened because the debt was never refinanced. So where do we stand on that?
I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to preface this with a lot of I thinks and I recall. But I know we looked at this as an administration on calling those bonds that funded the Guardian building, and there were all the series were not callable, right? Or there was a prepayment penalty that was associated with it, and the economics didn't work. So I want to be very careful, but I know we've just looked at it from a number of different, and nobody run away saying we're going to sell the Guardian building. But when we looked at a number of different options of how we could save money, make sure we had enough space, making sure that we're, being good financial stewards. We're looking at it from a different perspective, but the same thing happened where I think those bonds aren't fully callable. But I want to be careful before I say that for certainty on the record. And so there's obviously you have a penalty if you were to do those based on the clause. And, you know, if our bond counsel were here, they tell me, they probably correct me, but I'm sure I'm directionally correct. And Yogesh, I don't know if you have, if you're aware of any specifics on those, on the bonds for the Guardian building? Any opportunities for us to fully refinance those?
Turn the mic on the bottom, the base. Yeah, there you go.
Sorry. Yogesh Kisani, Deputy CFO, Management Budget. So as far as we know, through our 2020 refunding, we have refunded 2008 and 2009 A bonds. And somehow 2008 B and 9B has some restriction, as you just alluded, that there was some uncallable or some other restrictions. So I think we are looking into this. Going back to the Mark question, I'm not sure at this point. I just need to do a little bit more research on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark, any further
No, but
comments?
if that concludes, I want to thank our CFO and his staff for their presentation. And if that concludes it, that also concludes the reporting by all the departments, or the hearing for all the departments. The next steps, and we don't have dates for them yet, but we will be putting them on a calendar very quickly, will be to review budget instructions and then technical amendments. And we'll be working with our CFO and staff and budget department to work on all of the technical amendments that have been discussed during the course of the hearings, and any that they would propose otherwise.
Varga?
Thank you. Mark, could we put Tuesday the 30th on our calendars to give commissioners enough notice?
Yes, that will certainly be one of the days that we will be meeting. But what I'd like to do is get a complete calendar out for all of the days up through approval by full board.
I just wanted to give them a heads up that we'll probably be meeting on the 30th.
Right.
Okay, thank you. Madam Clerk, next item on the agenda.
Item E, new business, there is none listed. Item F, such are the matters as may be properly submitted before the committee.
We have none.
Item G, public comments.
Is there anybody in the public that would like to make a comment? Anyone here from the public that would like to make a comment? No one is here. Madam Clerk, anybody on Zoom?
I see no hands on Zoom, and we have not received any emails.
Okay, going once, going twice. No one. Next item, Madam Clerk.
Item H, adjournment.
Have a motion